Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Ghost Show podcast. I am the creative pit boss of Ghost Show Press, Professor Christopher McLaughlin, and this is the Ghost Show. So I say to my business partner, Mike Laverty, Mike, can you get me the least appropriate theme song you can possibly find?
Yeah.
There you go.
I thought that was, I thought that said spoons that walk and not spooks that walk. So that was a nice little bit of incongruity.
All righty. Well, joining us tonight to talk some more about our current running Kickstarter for Volume 2 and Everyone's Gone to the Movies, our film commentary series, Subversive Sci-Fi, which, before I get to introductions, thank you so much to the 63 people that have backed us so far and have gotten us off to such a tremendous start for just 2 days into the campaign. Thank you all so much for those of y'all that have donated and spread the word. And I appreciate all of you, but it's really amazing to see the number of people that have donated significant sums of money with no reward. That is very humbling. I mean, it's. I believe in the work that we do, and I believe in my writers, but knowing that there are people out there that just dig what we're trying to do in terms of doing right by creators and standing up for their rights to say what needs to be said and to be treated decently like professionals, that means a lot as well. So thank you to everybody that has donated and gotten this off such a great start. All righty. Well, let me introduce the folks that I have here tonight. I'm just going by order of Brady Bunch block here. So Lynn, you introduce yourself.
Firestone. I contributed to Volume 1, and I'm lucky enough to be back for Volume 2. So good to see everybody.
All righty. And rejoining us from last week, Rob, you want to introduce yourself to the people that haven't seen last week's show?
Hey there, folks. I am Rob. I also was a contributor to the first book, and I am very pleased and honored to be asked back. And it's a fantastic thing to be in the company of all you guys and to work with the professor.
All righty. And taking a break from her ghost hunting and her work as a journalist in Southern Virginia, where she ostensibly writes recipes and stuff, but secretly hunts monsters, much to her long-suffering editor's chagrin. Shannon, do you want to add to your legend?
First of all, again, green filter. No idea what's happening with that, and it's not easy being green. I don't know what else to say. Also, it looks like my eyes are shut. They're wide open. Don't know what's going on there either. Just very strange. I'm a cryptid tonight. Was in the first anthology. I did Alien. In this one, I'm doing The Fly. Very pleased to be back. Very pleased we have so many people here. Very pleased to see Chris again and Lynn, since I've met both of you in person in real life multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just ignore the filter and let's just keep going this way.
All right.
This way. Okay.
All righty. And Darren, welcome.
Thanks. I'm Darren Watts. I'm a writer and game designer. I also was in the first book. In the first book, I did audition, which, everybody agreed was a terrible experience to watch. And in this book, I am doing Liquid Sky, which is also a really painful experience to watch. So I seem to be developing a niche in this series.
I think that I would prefer to experience the stuff in audition than sit through all of Liquid Sky. That's a tough one. That's a really tough one.
Oh, wow.
It's not
going into the lineup of this one. I thought I'd have to fight to do Liquid Sky. I was very disappointed that nobody else was willing to challenge me for it.
Oh, I have like a mental list of films that I mean, I will never tell a writer what to write. That's just so not what we do here. But I had this little mental list of films that I thought, wouldn't it be neat if we could get X? And not only did I get Liquid Sky off that list, I the perfect person to write about it, and the results are just amazing. Alrighty. Well, Darren, since we seem to have blundered into talking about Liquid Sky, do you want to talk a little bit about the film for people who might not be familiar with it and what you found interesting and intriguing about it?
Sure. It was an underground film, sort of as underground as you could be, I guess, in New York City, in Manhattan of the like late 70s. It was filmed by a Russian artist and several of his friends. Pretty much, without permission, basically. They had no license or anything for any of the filming that they did. Most of it is done either in the apartment of the star or in the clubs that they used to hang out with. They literally would just walked into, like a bunch of nightclubs and just filmed what was going on in there as part of the, as part of the movie. It has the most maddening electronic soundtrack that I think has ever been recorded. If that's the kind of thing that that you don't respond well to, I would remove all of the breakable objects around you while you are watching it, because it's absolutely nuts. But on the other hand, it's an absolutely fascinating, hypnotic movie. It's the joke is, when I pitched it to the professor about this, I said, in the same way that the Ramones wanted to be the Rolling Stones or the Who, but could not because they were too much mutant, right? Like to actually pull that off. This is what happens when people who are mutants try to make a real sci-fi movie, right? Everything about this is just filtered through a scene that existed for such a brief period of time. And was made by basically crazy people who genuinely thought they were making a great sci-fi movie. And it shows that's there's nothing in this movie that somebody didn't care about, right? Or was really thought it was really important to get on film. So,
and that is the key ingredient to making a cult film. Despite all the contrary, there has to be at least one person that believes they're making a statement.
Right, absolutely. It's great pumpkin level sincerity in what they were trying to do. Yes.
All right. Well, for the people that haven't seen it and are going to demand such niceties as a plot, is there an easy way to sum up the plot?
There is a plot. There is a alien. There's an alien species or something. We only ever see the ship from the outside, so we don't really know what the aliens look like or anything. But they have come to Earth with this specific goal of harvesting brain chemicals from humans. And the best brain chemicals they can get are either when people are having orgasms or on heroin. So they basically kind of hang around scenes where both of those are happening a lot. There is a German scientist who is aware of their existence and is trying to, find out more about them. The problem that they both have, that the aliens and the German scientists have, is that the harvesting process actually kills the person involved, and leaves them with a corpse that has what is basically like a crystal blade or something sticking out of the backs of their skulls. And so we see this all from the point of view of our heroine, who is a sometimes model, and occasional, drug dealer, or certainly the roommate of a drug dealer at least. And the alien ship basically takes up residence on the roof of her building. And so every time she has an encounter with somebody, either sexual or drug related, they wind up dying in basically her living room or her bed. I won't even bother to try to explain what happens after that. But, a great deal more happens. Most of it is, is hilariously nonsensical. So. But there are scenes in it that are wonderful, that are genuinely great comedy, right? In order to see the building, the German scientist tries to get into a building across the street to see out the window, right? And the woman who winds up letting him into her house thinks she's picking him up, and he has no idea. And the comedy between the two of them, of her trying to get him into her bed while he's trying to use her window to see the spaceship, basically, is some of the most brilliant physical comedy that I think ever existed in the 70s. It's amazingly funny, and yet Several of the actors, none of the actors on it were professional, except that several of them were from the Warhol studios, right? So they had been in Andy Warhol's productions before, and that was basically what they knew about movie making. So,
how influential do you think the film has been in terms of the visual style?
Enormously.
Yeah.
I think it's surprisingly so. It was literally, until relatively recently, the best-selling underground midnight film in New York City.
Wow.
And ran regularly well into the early 2000s. It's only been like 10 or 15 years that they've stopped showing it literally every night somewhere in Manhattan. So I think it's had an enormous impact, even if it's, the sort of thing that you go to as a joke, as a lark or whatever. There's parts of it that will just stick in your head forever. So.
Wow.
One thought that I had about it is, I would imagine that when you rewatched it for the book, this had been a chance for you to revisit it after a while. I would
Absolutely,
guess.
Yeah, yep. I saw it in high school actually the first time.
Oh, so. Wow!
Yeah. I know I'm an old man, but yes.
And you were cool even in high school. That's really impressive. Hey, my only similar story is I took a date to see Reanimator. That was probably the height.
Oh, there
of
you
my
go. Yeah.
Okay. Films don't change, but the world around them does. And the one thing that kind of struck me is taking another look at this film here in the 21st century is that in this millennium, we have a much greater sense of gender fluidity and things like that. And with Anne Carlisle playing, a lead male role and a lead female role in the same movie, do you think our evolving understanding of questions of gender, does it change the way that we see this film 40 years on?
I'm sure. I'm hesitant to give them too much credit, for that, right? Because once again, so much of it is just accidental magic, right? The only reason that they didn't have the intention of we're trying to make a statement about gender by having Anne Carlisle play both parts. Literally, the guy who was supposed to play the boy part just didn't show up, right on the set. So she was like, "Well, I can do it," and then suddenly that became a thing for the movie, right? So I don't think we can give them too much credit for making. For having too much of a point. Now, looking at it obviously from the outside, you can draw all sorts of inferences about what society was like in 1979 and what it's like today. The other thing I think it's enormously influential on, obviously, is the electroclash music scene, right? The bands like Fisher Spooner and stuff like that regularly name check it as an influence on what they did musically. A sizable part of the movie is done on the first commercial synthesizer that was available to the public, right? That was something that you could actually just go buy out on the store. And it's actually, that makes several appearances in the movie, people actually playing it while they're, doing their reciting their poetry or whatever. But that synthesizer was in fact the first person who bought that synthesizer ever was Peter Gabriel, who recorded Shock the Monkey on it.
Wow.
Right. So, it's literally, it's a huge piece of musical history is happening in front of you at the same time too.
My one small disappointment was, when somebody mentioned 1979 synthesizer to me, I was really hoping for a bank of reel-to-reel tape machines behind it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But no, when she's wearing the thing with a big shoulder strap, right, kind of, and playing it with one hand, and then kind of pounding on her chest with the microphone at the same time, it's an amazing performance. As much fun as we make of it, I defy you to take your eyes off of her when she's doing it, right? So.
It is a one-of-a-kind film, to be sure. All righty. Well, then I will move my way back around. And Shannon, you want to talk about the David Cronenberg version of The Fly? And listen, I want to pay you a compliment now that we're virtually face to face. That I didn't have time in my hasty response to you.
Oh, okay.
Second time in a row, you have taken a film that has been written to death, and you have found fresh and insightful things to say about them. And that is such an amazing achievement. And I am so grateful to have you as a part of my books. So,
well, thank you. Thank you.
Now, talk about
I will deflate the balloon immediately by saying some of those themes I've seen bloggers write about, not all of it. I was just trying to think, like, what do I like so much about this film? I was saying, I think what you're probably, if you're talking about the idea that his transformation, Jeff Goldblum's Seth Brundle's degeneration into the human fly, is kind of a metaphor for like disease and decay and death. I mean, I'm not the first person to make that observation, but I thought it was really a theme worth exploring. I'm just diving way too fast. I'm sorry, but
okay.
I have a green screen. It just seems to fit anything insectoid. I'm in my element apparently. But yes, did you have an actual question? I'm sorry, I just
I was going to give you a chance to talk about the film, and we seem to have backed into it as we have been prone to do for here. But okay, but since we're talking about the very fruitful topic of Cronenberg's treatment of disease, I thought it was good that you raised that point, and I was also fascinated because it's a recurrent theme in his work, but to see how he's approaching it as a guy 10 years into his career is coming at it from a different point of view than the guy that made Shivers or the guys that made Rabid. You know, there's more of a maturity. Is that the right word to use? Not to say that he was making teen sex comedies earlier, but you know,
I don't think anyone. I would like to see what a Cronenberg teen sex comedy looks like. That would be amazing. Porkies, but they're all really like mutant pigs or something. Like, that's exactly what he would do. Oh my god!
Could not be worse than Porky's.
Their faces melted and stuff.
What's the Charles Burns novel about the teen plague, basically, the 50s? Cronenberg could totally direct that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God. I feel like I've just played matchmaker.
Call me Hollywood.
All right. But please, Shannon, what else did you find remarkable about the Fly remake?
Of course, I knew about. I did not see it when it came out. I would only have been 14 at that time, and my parents, came from a really religious family, and that no way I would have been allowed to see horror movies. And I probably would have had screaming nightmares for weeks, but I still would have wanted to see it. I saw it, I think, when I was in college the first time. It just wasn't an option, and then it was, and I loved it. And I finally saw the abortion scene, which, wow, hot topic. But I don't know anyone who honestly got offended by that in the movie. Like anyone who saw it, who is like in real life, is tilts into the direction of you shouldn't do that. Who I don't know anyone who saw it, and I'm trying to think of names, but I can't. But I don't know of anyone who saw it who was offended by it on the level of, oh, how dare they allow that to happen? It was like, oh God, no kidding. And then you get to the end, and there's a giant maggot, or it was the dream sequence part, and that was a pretty compelling case. Which, when you think about it, is a very subversive, compelling case for abortion access, I guess. Although Cronenberg said that's just normal. That's not even. I wasn't making a point out of it. So, but that was a really wild part to see, and it's not even the main part of the movie. It's just a gross out moment that everybody always remembers, and there's just something I like it. One of the big things, and this has been pointed out by other people too, it's almost that I can think of. It's the only one that has a real warm emotional center. I mean, a lot of his stuff is of ideas. Like he's cerebral. He gets you in the gut because there's a lot of visceral, gross stuff. Sometimes he gets you in the libido. Maybe it doesn't turn you on, but it's about characters who are very turned on by weird things. But this is the only one I can think of where it's just got it actually does get you in the heart, because you feel for these people. Even as horrible as things get and as gross and awful, it doesn't work as anything more than a gross out film if you don't feel for the fact that these two people really did love each other. They had a beautiful romance at one point. They were relatably romantic with each other. It wasn't like watching two perfect icons or whatever, even as pretty as they both were. Of course, they were having their own romance in real life at the time, which helped a lot. And then finally, you just kind of see the downfall of that and how terrible it is when something just goes horribly wrong. And that is a good metaphor for, losing a partner to just some kind of catastrophic illness. I've got something like that going on in my family, which thankfully it's not like that, but people slip away, and major disease will really do a number on you. And it's like, it's not as horrible in real life, but emotionally the through line works. It really does.
In terms of an emotional core, I have to speak up for The Dead Zone. That was the film I did for the first book, so I have to toss in that. It's strange. It's been a long time since I saw The Fly, but my impression of it is that it's not as clinical in terms of the presentation of the science as his other stuff is, because you usually have here's the hospital in the suburbs, and it's very sterile and everything. But here it's almost like it's not a positive approach to it, but it's more on a relatable level, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what is your take on that? If you
Well, I mean, I guess, and I can't think of another movie where this has necessarily been the case, and I may just be, this is like, you ask me the question, and immediately everything I know about it goes right out of my head. But I mean, Seth's laboratory was his home, and what would be later like a really kind of a cool address, like industrial, and it used to be a factory, and that kind of thing. But his home, his lab are the same place, so it's a human space. Mm-hmm. It's not we bring people in and do things and then they leave. Like, that's his home. And I mean, they have sex in there, they eat together in there. It's a very inhabited space. So in a very prosaic domestic kind of way. So I think that's a big difference. And you see them just doing stuff together. It's not a prelude to anything. I mean, they're not like out having dinner and like a car crashes through the wall of the restaurant or something. I mean, they're just having normal domestic human interactions, and that really builds the emotional core up for me. Like, they had to go out to eat. He bought her a necklace. They went out for coffee, stuff like that. And it's just those kind of boring details that really make it bring the impact in later.
Sure. Yeah, and it's kind of interesting to see how Cronenberg, looking back, kind of played the hand that he was dealt. When he was starting out doing, as our wonderful guest Sean Vieira points out, as Canadian tax dodges, he was making these very, very cold clinical films. And then as he got gradually better and better actors, when he could work with Christopher Walken and Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis, the stories got more human when he had actors that could better convey that depth of emotion.
That's also true.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum very much stylistically is unlike anybody he worked with, certainly before, and I don't think very frequently afterwards either. So
I think you're right. Yeah.
He's an odd bird, that one. He is like Christopher Walken, and then he's just got, or for that matter, I guess William Shatner, although I don't think they ever worked together, but just has that distinctive style where you're like, that's nobody else.
Yeah.
Nobody else talks or looks like that. And I remember the first time I saw it, I honestly thought Jeff Goldblum was kind of creepy before he got transformed. I felt for him, but I was like, I don't know. I've warmed up to him a little bit over the years. So,
has Goldblum gotten better, or men have just?
I think Goldblum's gotten better. I'm going to say that. I think that works. He was in a Marvel movie, so I have to like him. I like the Marvel verse. I don't like everything about it, but I enjoy it. So
okay. And while we're talking about weird Cronenberg stuff, it's a slightly different type of weird. But when he showed up on Star Trek Discovery as just a random Federation government operative, I'm like, and it isn't just in a way, hey kids, it's David Cronenberg. Right. So it got me. My last brief candle of hope for Discovery was that they would develop a running gag where everybody running the Federation was a cult director. It's like they would bring on a Federation agricultural minister, and for no other reason to be like John Waters.
I would love that.
Exactly. Just keep rolling with that. But yeah. But hey, Strange New Worlds. Okay, fingers crossed for that.
Cool.
All righty. So, Lynn, you want to talk to us a little bit about what you're doing for the book?
The whole Ghost in the Shell universe is just, it never stops fascinating me. There's so much depth to it, and so much thought has gone into making it as realistic as possible. And it has so many contradictions in it that are, very much like the contradictions that you see in the real world. It's always worked for me. It's always been a world that I can revisit, without any problems. I love going back and rewatching them and seeing, especially because it's been redone so many times. You can watch the first couple of movies and see those people's vision, and then you can pick up with the ones from many years later, and the whole look of the show has changed. But the core question of, what does it mean to be a human being has not. And it's, I don't know. I just love it. I never get tired of it. Never get bored of it.
Well, the enthusiasm definitely shows in the work.
I hope so. I hope so.
Okay. Yeah. I thought you did an especially great job of talking about how this franchise, which is 30 years old.
Yes, approximately.
I don't need to think about that being 30 years old for too long. And now in the 21st century, these fundamental questions of how we define and regard our own bodies. I mean, you relating it to themes of being a woman in the modern age, and how the Scarlett Johansson remake got tied up in questions of, is it right to have a Caucasian woman in this role? It almost like back on the themes of the original themes that it broke back in '95. I thought.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about anime characters, the default anime style is difficult to tell what race you're looking at. I mean, unless you're talking about a character that's almost being caricatured until, because if they're going to draw, say, someone of African descent or an African American, they're going to have the accent, because so much of anime, because the visuals are a little bit flatter, the voice actors have to carry a lot of characterization. So from time to time, they will change the characters' faces or whatever to make it obvious what race they're supposed to be. But for the most part, anime, you just have to know that you're looking at Asians. It's otherwise they're just people. It's very easy to look at it and say, well, it doesn't matter what it looks like because I'm projecting myself onto it. But for the Major and for the other characters, even though it's a fictional Japan, they do carry themselves in a way that, at least to me, I see Japanese culture in the way that they act. So, I can, to me, it's very easy to tell that I'm looking at Asian characters. The only one that looks like he might be a white guy is Togusa. And Togusa is in absolutely every other way, he's a Japanese guy, but he's got like a sandy brown mullet, and it's just like that. I can't imagine anyone but a Caucasian with a mullet. I really can't. Maybe that's me being a racist, but I don't know. Anyway, but the movie caught a lot of flack for that, and honestly, I think deservedly so. I mean, I get the meta reason. I understand that if you're going to have a big name in your movie, you're going to get more people to come to see it. And I thought Scarlett did a fine job in that movie. But there's no getting around the fact that she was whitewashed. The Major was whitewashed. But they tried to make some other changes too, gave her a different name, gave her a whole different story, a whole different, everything. They tried to make it less offensive. If they had tried to say, this is Major Motoko Kusanagi, and here's Scarlett Johansson. That would have been very difficult for, for anyone, I would think, to swallow. So, they did their best, but it just still didn't work for me.
Alrighty. Well, how about you guys? Other Ghost in the Shell fans in the room?
I remember I saw it in college. This is so embarrassing. I saw it in college and I haven't seen it since then. I remember I loved it. I do remember thinking, wow, they're really whitewashing it with Scarlett Johansson, but I didn't know they had changed the character's name. Or if I did know, I'd kind of forgotten about it. See, now I have to go rewatch all these movies. I almost saw Liquid Sky and I never did. Oh God, I've got so much catching up to do.
I know, girl. I feel you. I've looked at the list of the movies that people are writing about for this second volume, and I'm like, oh God, I'm never going to catch up. I've got so many movies to watch.
And there's new ones coming out all the time.
I know, daggone it. I got a life to live. I can't be watching
putting
all
out
this.
movies for a couple of years so I can catch up. That would be fine.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I have to admit, one of the sparks that helped start the fire that became Ghost Show was seeing the fantastic movie commentaries that so many of my writer friends were doing on social media for free. And it just finally hit me like, we should find a way to monetize this. Support the habit, man. Right. So yes, and that's one of the great blessings of having so many talented friends.
We're glad to have a place to do this. It's great to have that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And again, thank you all the wonderful people that made the first book possible and are making the second book happen. And for those of you all that are tuning in and you're thinking, how can I be a part of this? There you go. I just dropped the link to the Kickstarter in the comments. I know never read the comments, but ours are safe to read and definitely enough to retrieve the URL to this. And here we go. All right, here we go. I feel like Jerry Lewis now. All right, okay, here we go. All right, 63 backers and a biscuit short of $2,200, and we started Friday. That's amazing.
Wow.
That is fantastic.
Thank you, wonderful people, for making that happen.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
What do they say? Like 1/3 in the first 3 days. That's your goal, right? So.
Yeah,
as a guideline. So we're at past 1/3, and we're only 2 days in. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, and we eventually wrote 237 people into the last one, and we've had 63 people take time out of their holiday weekend to come and be a part of this. So wow, if we're anywhere in the neighborhood of the 200 we got last time, then hey, we should be planning volume 3.
Absolutely.
Okay, which would be what?
That's musicals. That's a good answer. I like that.
Please, not musicals.
There's momentum building.
The problem with doing musicals was there would be a nasty civil war over who got to do Phantom of the Paradise.
Yeah.
There would be.
See, that's the easy one. You gotta.
That is kind of playing on easy mode. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I have in my movie radar that would even remotely qualify as a musical.
See, I've got the one I want to do, but I have to keep it to myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Being proprietary over there.
Yeah, I can't spill it. Sorry.
And I have to be careful about this because I back when I wrote for that other company, I had a throwaway line about doing a guide to romance comic books, and I had people emailing me like a decade afterward asking me when that was coming out.
Sure.
And the only way that it got funnier is now somebody's actually doing that.
Oh wow!
And Godspeed to them. It's an amazing era to explore, and I wish them luck on their project. But just the things that you put on paper that you think people are never going to notice, and sometimes that's the thing they won't let go of. Yeah. All right. Well. Listen. As we wind things down. Let's see here. All right. Anybody have a project that they want to talk about? Darren, I know you're always up to something. What can we look forward to coming from you soon?
Well, currently I am in and around my one of my big gigs going on right now is that I am writing for the DC collectible trading cards set this year.
Awesome.
So that's kind of like taking up a lot of my time, but I am also working on a European fantasy game, which is hilariously called Blood and Doom, which is kind of a horror fantasy series that like I am incapable of saying without actually doing like sound effects around it when I say it. So it's a good sign, I think. And then I'm also, primarily working on shows, but I have the podcast is ongoing. In fact, the Explain This Comics guys just hit last week our 2-year anniversary. So we have 52 bi-weekly episodes that are, to tell you all about the fascinating and bizarre history of comic books and why they are the way they are. We don't spend a lot of time, like just reading and reviewing comics. We spend a lot of time kind of, like talking about the publishers and the creators and, the lawsuits and all kind of like, the fun stories and the mobsters and that sort of thing that are, like the reasons why comics as a business are the way they are. So.
And speaking of weird comic trivia related stuff, any word on history of Sentinel Comics?
It is still being worked on. It will come out someday. When GTG keeps, like putting out these massive other projects around it that keep taking my people away from them. So, but it's finished from a text point of view, and they are arguing over layout and art and stuff right now. So.
And for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, it's the wonderful people at Greater Than Games asked Darren and I to write a history of their fictional comic book company, putting out their fictional comic books with fictional characters, with fictional versions of real people. Right. Or as Christopher Bedell told it to his audience, lies upon lies.
The history of the universe for role players is presented to them in the form of an Overstreet price guide to collect the comics. So that you could tell that, so that you learn the history and the backstory of the setting by looking at like how much money each of the comics in which the story happened is worth. So,
all right. Anybody else have a project?
It's a little meta, just a little bit.
All right. Anybody else have a project that you want to speak up about other than Subversive Sci-Fi? Oh, speaking of Volume 3, Sean has thrown out spy movies for Volume 2.
Oh, that could be fun.
Yep.
I have to think about that, but yeah.
I won't have to knife fight anybody for the Derek Flint movies?
Probably not.
Okay, good.
I'd want to do some like, dark Licari foolishness or something. I think would be the thing I'd want.
something like Leonardo DiCaprio would have made in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood when he was off in Italy. Operation Explosion.
Yeah, right, exactly. Oh yeah, no, that's exactly what I'll do. I'll do the Lucha spy movie. I'll do the Operation Bermuda.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Now I want to read it.
I'll sign up for it in advance. There you go.
I want to read this so badly. Maybe I'm obligated to publish it at this point.
It's El Santo as James Bond, complete with laser watch and like all kind of other stuff. It's fabulous. I mean, it's terrible, but it's fabulous.
Hard to go wrong with El Santo.
Yeah. Sounds right up my alley. I love it.
All righty. Well, any closing thoughts before we wrap up tonight's show?
I have a stupid question.
Go right ahead.
I'm probably having a really hard ADD moment right now. I do have those. Rob, did you get a chance to talk about anything?
Rob, you're on mute, buddy.
Still can't hear you. Oh God, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Oh geez. It would not have happened if you hadn't asked him a question, Shannon.
Oh God, I know.
Okay, am I back?
Here you are.
Here we go.
There he is.
See, for sci-fi, I have the technical issues, which is what
Right.
There you go.
I talked about my film the last time, so I didn't want to
Oh,
jump
okay.
in
I
here.
didn't get to watch that one yet. I'm so sorry.
Oh, but I did Rollerball, which is an amazing
Ooh,
film. I love
yeah.
it. It's one of my all-time favorite sci-fi films, and I mean, it's you read the essay and you'll see what the fun stuff is, but that's about it.
I
And
was
I
just
have
afraid
to.
we were leaving you out. I was like, oh my God. Okay, cool.
No. It's okay. I have to interject though,
Yeah.
that I have seen the book that you two have worked on, the comic book, and it is amazing. It is absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to have a real copy of it. You know,
Well, thank you.
cannot wait. It's an absolutely amazing book. A labor of love, in the sense that I think a lot of the films that we talk about here were labors of love with no possibility and no forethought of an intended audience. And in those cases, you feel it. It comes through, and it just makes for a movie, a book that is so much elevated. It's just so incredibly elevated, and I think, not to be whatever, but I think that all the people here and all the people who contributed to the books are also in that category where you do what you do out of love, out of pure love, and
Absolutely.
that's what makes the product good. It's it's the Keebler
It's why we're
Elves.
pretty much unemployable in other locations. So,
Well, I know I am.
right?
Why some of us shelter in academia.
Right.
Yeah, but I couldn't agree more, because when thinking about what to do with Ghost Show and why to do it, I feel tremendously blessed that we all got to live in an age where there was this great curation. There were things there were, and I'm not hating on the freer environment that we have in the internet age, but there was something to be said for, there were cultural guardians to hand down, like, hey, you should really check this out. The number of books that I had to pick up as a kid, if I got interested in like spy movies, there were guidebooks to them and explaining, like, hey, there's James Bond, and then there's Derek Flint and all that. And media consumers of all ages are just so overwhelmed by the number of choices out there today. And the opportunity for us to take films that could get lost and ignored like never before, and to just so eloquently and wonderfully advocate for them. I really kind of believe in the mission that we're doing for worthwhile projects, and how easy it is for them to get buried these days.
Absolutely.
So pass on Liquid Sky to another generation.
I would be sad to lose it. Absolutely. So,
well, that's it. Just when I again, I never begrudge my writers my choices, but when somebody truly narrows in on a film and there really hasn't been anything like that before. Like, one of the things I was thinking about for Volume 3 was just simply to call it like the weirdest films we've ever seen, and just open it up for whatever you want.
Yikes. Yeah. Okay.
So I can sing the praises of Blood Freak, which I argue is the best were turkey film ever made. Well,
I would have to do some long and hard thinking about that.
Yeah.
Which one I would actually stand for. So
it's one I think could be a lot of fun. But hey, and
Terror in Tiny Town.
ooh.
I dare you.
That seems like the kind of film that today would go beyond canceling, like people would be obligated to burn your house to the ground for making that. Like, nothing personal, you just know what you did.
Right.
Or the gangster one with the kids, right?
Bugsy Malone with Jodie Foster.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know what's the fact that film exists, or the fact that you like get name actors coming out of that film. You know, it's like sitting through the Human Tornado and going, "Is that Ernie Hudson?" One of those things, you know. Okay. By the way, Rob, I was thinking, I was watching I got the new Australian import edition of the Warriors, and I was listening to the audio commentary track. And they got to the classic scene where they have their showdown in the park with the baseball Furies.
Yeah.
And I'm going to write this guy a letter on your behalf, but his summation of the scene was, the baseball Furies, they dress like the Yankees and swing like the Mets.
Well, there you go. That's social commentary at its finest. You know, that's really punching down. Why do you do that for?
It's a really mean thing to say in 1978 too. So.
Yes.
I'll tell you though, completely accurate. But what are you gonna do?
Oh yes, all right. Well, we're getting okay. All right, so yes, we're wandering afield, and that's usually a sign that we should switch from broadcasted banter to private banter. But I want to thank Lynn, Rob, Shannon, and Darren for joining us tonight and for being a part of Ghost Show and making it happen. It means the world to me, and thank you so much for that. And thank you so much to the viewers and the commenters. Hey, Sean. Hey, mysterious Red Lantern person who I suspect is Amy Campbell. Hello, Amy Campbell. And thank you all to the backers. We've got 27 more days to go. Please keep contributing. Please keep sharing. Please keep advocating for what we do, and hopefully we'll be back talking about Volume 3 not too long from now. But we will be back next Sunday at 8 with another group of writers, whoever I can corral. But we'll be talking a little more about the book. And thank you all very much for being with us tonight, for contributing, for backing, and for watching. And good night from all of us at the Ghost Show.
Good night.